Alright, so this is going to be a short, unscripted video, and the purpose here is to demonstrate the short turnaround state for the panel in the Majestic software -8. This is the state of the plane when you first bring it up into Flight Simulator. There is no external power or APU when you first bring it up, so I've actually paused the simulator so we don't run down the battery. I'll unpause that simulator here momentarily, and I'll walk you through my strategies for getting the panel from where it is when you bring it up in Flight Simulator to that short turnaround state. There is no checklist to accomplish this. More or less, just kind of put yourself in the mindset of, we've just arrived from a previous flight, and perhaps another crew is coming to take over this aircraft. We've gone all the way down through the shutdown procedures. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm going to unpause the simulator, and we'll go through this fairly slowly, but to give you an idea, it takes all of about 45 seconds to a minute to get this done once you get the hang of it. And then we'll talk about saving the flight here once we finish. So the first thing we want to do is get power to the aircraft, and to do that I'm going to bring up the right CDU, and I'm going to turn it on and just wait for the CDU to power up here. You'll see that I'm in Seattle right now, so when you first bring up the aircraft, it happens that one of the communication radios is set to the Seattle ATIS, and that'll be something we correct as well as we go through the short turnaround state. Okay, so the right CDU has gone through the testing phase here, the self-test. We'll accept that. Go into data, clear out the message. I'm going to select services, and then I'm going to request the ground power. I'm just going to leave it here on this page, and after that I'm going to go up in the overhead here and select the main bus tie to tie. When you bring up the -8, the ground power, external power is already selected. We're just going to keep an eye over here on the electrical panel. The upper left hand corner there, we see that the external power is now connected, and so we'll continue with getting the panel into the short turnaround state. Again, there's no checklist that you can follow to get through this, so I just like to start in the overhead panel here, and what we will discuss now are only those things that need to be changed or adjusted. So the purpose of this video is not to show you how to set up the panel, it's really to demonstrate how to get it into that short turnaround state where we can then begin to follow the checklists. So we're going to select the engine intake heat to on, and we're going to select the windshield heat to normal, pilot side heat to on. The engine start switches into the normal position. Coming up here into the pressurization panel, we'll select the recirculation fan. We'll set the temperature knobs to the 12 o'clock position and turn on the no smoking sign. From there I work my way over to the left side panel. I'm going to turn off the nose wheel steering. Coming across the glare shield here, spoilers to the taxi position, all the way across to the anti-skid, and turn the anti-skid on. I typically use flaps 35 right now for my landings, so I'll go ahead and set the gpws flaps down to 35. And again, the idea behind that is that we've just come in, we've just landed shortly before, and so as the new crew arrives at the aircraft, they're going to find the aircraft in the same state it was when we left it. Now from here I'll go ahead and turn on the left CDU, and I'll let that start through its self-test here. And while it's going through its self-test, I'm going to set up the EFIS control panels, and I'm going to do that by selecting the RMI needles to off, the bearing indicator on both sides to off, and I'm going to select the data button 3 times. The reason I'll do that is because that will give me the nav aids and the airports both displayed here on the navigation display. So if you select the data button 3 times, and I do that on both, data button, slowly through that 3 times, so that when we do bring the right inboard display unit up, it will be similar to this. It will have both the nav aids and the airports being depicted. The left CDU is now through its self-test, so we'll go ahead and accept that. I like to bring this one up into the flight plan page. Again, I'll clear the message. Okay, from here, working our way down, we're going to select the parking brake on, control lock, and bring the condition levers down to the fuel off position. From here I'm going to turn on the 2 arc dews, and with the arc dews up I'm going to select 122.8. You'll notice in my arc dew I selected both so that I can also tune the frequencies over for the right side there, so I'm also going to set that to 122.8. That's just going to ensure that I don't get some random ATIS. Next thing I'm going to do is turn the volume up for the VHF1 radio and the VHF2 radio. That'll allow me to monitor 2 frequencies should I choose, and I just copy that over here on the right CDU. So that's the VHF1, VHF2 volume. Coming over here, we're going to select the systems for my inboard display, the door panel, and then we're going to cycle between nav and system to get the right inboard display unit back over to the electrics. So essentially what we just did, if this is how we arrived at the aircraft, my inboard display units in the nav display, first officer's inboard display units in the electrical panel. I need mine in the doors page. Now if I select doors, if I select system, it's going to be in the electrical page. I'll go ahead and select the doors button, soft key there, but you'll notice that it puts both of them now in the doors key, or in the doors page. So what we need to do is cycle the right side here between the nav display and back over to the systems, and it brings up the default systems page, which is the electrical page. Okay, moving right along, when we landed, I would have had my weather radar tilted up 3 degrees, so I'm just going to give 3 short right clicks on the tilt knob here for the weather radar, so that when I do bring the weather radar up, it will be tilted up 3 degrees for the departure. So there are a couple other things that we would consider if we had just arrived from another flight. The pressurization panel would be set to the current field elevation. The current field elevation. We would have our minimum set in here. We would have the local pressure setting. Clearly, we would also have our reference speeds. The missed approach altitude would be up here. Those things I don't bother with when I'm just quickly getting into the aircraft and trying to get it down to a short turnaround state. And the reason I don't bother with those things is because those are items that we will be addressing during the pre-flight anyway, and the CDU pre-flight and the cockpit setup. So from where we're at right now, we can clear these warnings. From where we're at right now, if you wanted to pull up your checklists, you could continue with that checklists, or with those checklists. You could continue to work your way back down to completely remove power to the aircraft and essentially take the panel down to roughly a cold and dark state. Let's see if we can find the checklist here would be the leaving aircraft checklist. And so right now we're in that short turnaround state. If I wanted to continue with the leaving aircraft checklist, we'll go through that. It would be the ice protection intake doors off, closed. So that's here. Recirculation fan off. The ignition's off. The APU is off. The emergency lights off. Anti-skid off. Batteries and battery master off. Dome and boarding lights off. So essentially where we're at now then is the leaving aircraft state. If we wanted to shut down completely from where we're at right now, we would simply select to cancel the GPU. Something else I might mention, because we do have electricity, the aircraft is currently connected to the ground power. We also need to have our position lights on, and that's actually something I should have considered early on. So as soon as you get the ground power on, it's a good idea to get the anytime there's power to the aircraft, whether it's APU power or the GPU or you're on engine power, the position lights need to be on. That really wraps it up. you'll notice I've left the fasten seatbelt sign off. I've done that intentionally. The fasten seatbelt sign will remain off until we finish boarding fuel. The other thing that you could do if you're setting up for a flight, of course, is get your exterior doors open. And then from here, if you would like to work your way forward on the checklist, you would begin at the flight deck safety checks and, of course, work your way through. So that wraps up. Hope that helps explain a little bit about what I do now. The option you have here is to go ahead and save this flight. And the only thing that I've noticed that does not save when you save, because of course if we save the flight now, it will save the panel state along with it. The only thing that it won't save with it is the doors. So if we were to save this flight right now, and when we brought it back up, the doors would all be closed, of course, which is fine. That only takes a couple moments to correct. So there's where we're at. That's how to get the Dash 8 into the short turnaround state, and then of course, as we talked about, if you choose, you can take it all the way down to the leaving aircraft state. Once you do this a few times, bringing it down to the short turnaround state and then quickly going through the leaving aircraft state only takes a matter of about a minute or so. In fact, what takes the longest is allowing the CDUs to go through their self-test. So I hope that's been an informative video, and you'll notice anytime I fly when I'm streaming, this is exactly what I do. I very quickly bring it down. Excuse me. I have saved some flights before with the panel state the way I liked it. Be honest with you, I just found that. So for instance, if you do that, I'm in Seattle right now. So if I were to save this flight, but let's say I didn't want to fly out of Seattle, so I would have to load this flight up to get the panel state that I want, and I have to go back into Flight Simulator, and I'd have to select whatever airport I wanted to fly out of. So I'd have to reload that so that take the time to reload and get to the new airport. And to be honest, I just found that loading up at the airport I wanted to depart from, and then very quickly going through this routine of bringing it down to the short turnaround state is just about as fast as loading up in one airport with the panel state you like, only to have to reload at another airport, the airport you intend to fly out of. So at any rate, that's the way I handle it. Hope it's been informative, and hope to see you on the Twitch feed here as well.